A lot of people don't feel burned out right now. They don't feel broken. They don't feel like they're in crisis. They feel noisy. Their mind feels busy. Their calendars feel full. Their attention feels pulled in too many directions at once. If that's you, I want to start by saying something important. This doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong, and it doesn't mean you've lost your way. Most of the time, feeling noisy simply means you've been responsive for a long time without having space to reorient. Clarity doesn't disappear because you're incapable of it. It disappears when your system is overloaded. And when life feels noisy, the instinct is usually to push harder for answers, to make a plan, to decide something, to get clear as quickly as possible. But clarity doesn't respond well to pressure. It responds to space, honesty, and orientation. So instead of talking about fixing your life or making big decisions, I want to walk you through 4 grounded ways to regain clarity when your life feels noisy without rushing, reinventing yourself, or forcing answers that aren't ready yet. The first way is to separate what's loud from what's true. Noise is loud. It demands attention. It carries urgency, expectations, timelines, and comparison. Emails, obligations, other people's needs, financial pressures, cultural messages about success, all of these are loud. True things, on the other hand, are usually quiet. They don't interrupt you. They don't demand action. They show up as subtle discomfort, as recurring thoughts you keep circling back to, as a sense of relief when you imagine something changing, even if you don't know how. When your life feels noisy, it's often because loud things have drowned out the quieter truths. So instead of asking, what should I do? Try asking something gentler. What keeps asking for my attention even when I try to ignore it? What feels unresolved in a way that doesn't go away? What feels heavy to keep carrying even if it looks fine on the outside? Clarity doesn't start with answers. It starts with noticing. The second way to regain clarity is to stop trying to solve everything at once. When people feel overwhelmed or scattered, they tend to zoom out too far. They try to figure out the year, the career, the relationship, the future, all at the same time. That's not clarity, that's overload. Your nervous system can't orient itself to an entire life at once. It needs a smaller frame. Instead of asking, what am I doing with my life? Ask something more grounded. What does my system need this week to feel a little more stable? Not fixed, not resolved, not figured out, just more stable. For some people, that means rest. For others, it means fewer conversations or commitments. For some, it means space to think. And for others, it means one honest boundary that's been avoided. Clarity returns when pressure decreases. It doesn't return when pressure increases. If you've been trying to think your way out of noise, that's understandable, but orientation happens in smaller, quieter steps. The third way to regain clarity is to notice what you're tolerating. Tolerance is one of the biggest clarity killers, and most people don't realize how much of it they're carrying. When you tolerate something for long enough, it becomes normal, even when it's draining you. This might be a role you've outgrown, a pace that no longer fits, a dynamic where you consistently override yourself, a situation that technically works but quietly costs you energy. Ask yourself gently without judgment, what am I tolerating right now that takes more from me than it gives? You don't need to change it immediately. You don't need a plan. Just noticing tolerance begins to shift the internal signal. Clarity often starts where tolerance ends, not because you force change, but because you stop pretending something is neutral when it isn't. The fourth way to regain clarity is to stop confusing movement with alignment. You can be very busy and deeply disoriented at the same time. Movement feels like activity. Alignment feels like steadiness. If something requires you to constantly push past resistance, justify it to yourself, or override your own signals, That's not clarity, that's endurance. Endurance can get you far. It can keep things running, but it will eventually cost you connection. A more useful question than what should I do next is this: what would help me feel 5% more grounded right now? Not transformed, not certain, just steadier. Small shifts restore orientation faster than big plans ever will. If your life feels noisy right now, it doesn't mean you're behind. It doesn't mean you've missed something. It doesn't mean you need to start over. It usually means you've been carrying more than you were meant to carry alone. And this is where I want to slow us down for a moment. Because clarity doesn't arrive through force. It arrives through honesty, space, and listening. Often, the most supportive thing you can do isn't to decide what comes next. It's to give yourself a place to pause without pressure. That's why I created a simple one-page guide to go with this conversation. It's not a plan, it's not a checklist, and it's not about fixing anything. It's a quiet set of questions you can sit with when your life feels noisy and you don't know what to do yet. You can print it, write on it, or just read through it slowly. No expectations, no timeline. If that feels supportive, you'll find it linked below. And if not, that's okay too. You don't need to take action today. You don't need to decide anything. You don't need to turn this into a project. Let this land, let it settle. You're not late, you're not lost, you're reorienting. And that's often where clarity actually begins.